Good morning or afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming this morning, or again, afternoon. My name is Leigh Graves-Wolf. I'm in Michigan, so it's afternoon for me. And we'll get to know each other a little bit in a few minutes and to find out where you are and why you're here this morning. I'm assuming that part of the reason you're here is for the title that might have caught your interest. The title of my presentation is We Care a Lot, Humanizing Technology, or Humanizing Teaching Through Technology. And I am a clinical associate professor at Arizona State University. And Sabrina Cervantes Villa is here with me this morning, as well as my co-host and help on the back channel side. So thank you, Sabrina, and she'll be moderating and keeping an eye on the chat if you have any questions as we're going along this morning. This is me right by my house on my daily pandemic walks. I live in Michigan, so I didn't have to pretend at all for the winter theme. This is how I look most days recently. And I, as I mentioned, I'm a clinical associate professor in the Leadership and Innovation EDD program here at Arizona State. And I have been an educator for over probably 24 years now, starting out as a high school technology director, or tech lady, as the students used to like to call me. Before that, I was a disc jockey on the radio, and my career has taken many paths, but all of them have sort of orbited around education. So I'd like to start out this morning with two questions for you to put in the chat here, the answer to. First, I'd like to know how you're doing. There's a lot going on, and I appreciate you taking some time to spend time with me today. And hopefully today will help give you some resources to care for yourself and for your students. And then the second question I have for you is what brought you to this session? So if you want to take just a minute, you can pop those answers in the chat. And I think I'm seeing a theme emerge already, and I'm right there with all of you, feeling exhausted and overwhelmed at the moment. I will promise you that this session, the next 45 minutes or so that we have together, I hope to provide some resources to at least give a little bit of relief and hope as much as we can in this 45 minutes together here. But I want to make sure that I am modeling good practices and walking the walk and talking the talk of what I'll be preaching for the next few minutes here in the way that this is organized. So I appreciate those of you that have shared how you're feeling at the moment. I also acknowledge that sometimes people come to sessions to not participate and share, and there'll be avenues for you to do that as well if you're feeling sort of like just listening and kind of exploring on your own at the moment as well. So I'll start out here by talking, let me share the slides. Actually, Sabrina's going to put the link to the slides in the chat for you as well. I know those are always something everyone appreciates having, and I have quite a few hyperlinks in the slides as well, and we'll be referring to them. So this is something you can bookmark and go back to during the presentation and after we're done here. So the description of the session hopefully was something as well that brought you to the session. And I'll be sharing a list of some curated possibilities, practices, and promises for embedding care between these digital spaces that we've been embedded in the past year or more, but definitely more than we have ever in the past year. And then we'll move on to collectively engage in interactive brainstorm, which models caring practices while simultaneously generating more possibilities and hope. So I'll do that framing for about 10 minutes, and then we'll break out for about 25 minutes and reconvene and reflect. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, building a little bit of trust before I ask you to engage in an activity. My work has always centered around teaching and teaching online and understanding those practices. My master's thesis was back in 2004, after going through a mostly online master's degree. I wanted to explore what it might be like to be on the other side of the web page, and then carry that through to my doctoral thesis, which was looking at faculty versus student perspectives of their experiences in a Master of Educational Technology degree. And so I've always tried in my work to center students in my practice and the experiences of students, and making those as relevant and humane as possible for them. I share pretty much everything I do openly on my blog, which is leighragewolf.com. I believe a very fervently in Creative Commons, open educational scholarship and practices. So much so that I have a tattoo of a Creative Commons license on my foot. So it's something I believe very, very deeply in. But I'll share just a couple of quick practices that I do. All of these images that you are seeing here are linked out to blog posts that talk a lot more about what I am sharing. And I also would do a lot of work in critical digital literacy and try to make those invisible practices visible in the work that I do. So this is a slideshow here and a blog post about making those practices visible in a syllabus. I also, in terms of teaching online, am very aware and concerned about the time that my students spend on work. I think that's an emerging area of interest for me, and something that I think is neglected in a lot of discussions around online learning. We ask students to do activities, but don't necessarily put time bounds around them. And it's a complicated conversation, but I think starting that with students has been a practice that I embed that's been really helpful in setting expectations and also helping students know when to ask for help when they're working online. I think in online spaces, sort of a default mode for some reason, an unsaid mode, is that we need to do this all alone and we shouldn't ask for help. And if we need to ask for help, then we're doing something wrong or we don't know what we're doing, which we all know couldn't be further from the truth. So by making those expectations of time a little bit more visible, I've noticed a change and for the better in my students in terms of their asking for help and managing time on task. This getting to know you survey, most of us haven't started teaching yet. They'll be either starting next week or the week after if you are an instructor. And this getting to know you survey is something I send out to all of my classes before getting started. And it's really brief. I ask them their preferred pronouns, how to pronounce their name, which I think is really important, even in online environments, if we may not be saying them out loud all the time, where they are. And I create a literal map on Google Maps so we can show and kind of get a sense of the space that we all inhabit across the globe. And I also ask a really important question, asking them, is there anything that I should know so that I can help give better feedback to you and support you as a learner? And students are always, many students are surprised that I ask this question. And I wish they weren't surprised. I wish this was a default question that we ask all of our learners. But that sets off the semester in such a strong, positive and caring note. And they tell me things that are extremely important and relevant, especially given the pandemic, that if they're managing homeschooling, things like that, that will help me help them navigate the expectations in my class. And then finally, this is just a screenshot of something I call a quick fire challenge. If you've ever watched Top Chef or any cooking shows or reality shows, this idea of getting a set of ingredients or something to do and having a short amount of time to make something happen. And in my teaching and educational technology, I've found this to be a really useful and important practice that gives students an opportunity to explore and fail without any repercussions. And we'll talk a little bit more about ungrading and things like that in a moment as well. So let me bounce out of there for a second. My mouse has been really touchy lately. So I'll start out here, just a quick slide here with a brief academic history of care. If you look at the pedagogy of care or caring pedagogies, these names will pop up frequently. Carol Gilligan is credited as sort of being the originator of care conversations. Nell Noddings is one. If you've gone through any teacher education programs, another name that's very commonly shared, and Joan Tronto and Carl Leigh. And here I've linked to some of their keystone works. And if you're looking to sort of go back and see where a lot of this is rooted, much in feminist pedagogy and feminist practices is where sort of this academic discussion of care is centered. And then as we move forward into some more contemporary conversations, I've listed quite a few practitioners and scholars here, and we'll be looking through these resources together in a moment. And there are so many tremendous resources and communities out there for discussing and sharing and finding practices, not just on an academic side, but also practitioner side. And we'll be exploring some of these practitioner resources as well. And one practice that I want to mention, and I don't want to, even though it's here at the end, it never should be at the end of conversations, is this idea and practice of accessibility. Because I believe any caring pedagogical practices always have accessibility at the core. And just a quick tip to share, if you use Google Docs, or Google Slides, is that you can add alt text. And this is something that I do now in every single one of my presentations. Once they've added this in, you can add your alt text and put the title and descriptions. These are a lot of times caring practices are hidden and that we're not able to see them visibly. So I want to try to uncover some of those practices with you, and I want you to think about uncovering some of those practices that you do as well when we get a chance to break out. And then just some immediate resources that have popped up over the past 18 hours or so. There's two really great posts, one from Kylene Beers and another from Alyssa Hadley Dunn about teaching and working today, because today is certainly not a normal day in any sense of the word. We could see that in the chat and how everyone's feeling right now. And I saw a couple of tweets yesterday about, there weren't any faculty development sessions that help prepare us for that. So I wanted to make sure to share those immediate resources with you as well. So with that brief introduction, what I'd like for us to do is to break out into care circles or Zoom breakout rooms, if we want to be literal about where you're headed. And let me give you a little bit of information, and you'll be able to intentionally choose where you're going. That's done because I know it can be sort of jolting if you're thrown into a room you'll be most likely with strangers anyway as you're going, and sometimes we don't feel as comfortable jumping right in. So Zoom now thankfully allows you to allow participants to choose their own breakout room. So I've got a couple different options for you to explore, and let me explain those to you. The first one is a quiet room where you'll be exploring on your own. So you can go to the slideshow, and maybe if some of those resources I shared were new to you, you can link through and you can go to the shared Google Doc, which thank you, Sabrina, for sharing that in the chat. You'll be able to go in here and maybe share some new resources, or if you find something interested, this is a space to amplify and annotate. And one thing with our shared Google Doc too, the hope here is to create additional spaces for hope and ideas. So this will become a resource that we can share out with others as well, a sort of a curated spot. So you can choose to go into the quiet room, or if you want to dig a little bit more with colleagues into the history of care room, there'll be a room for that. If you'd like to speak more around the contemporary conversations, contemporary resources that I shared, you can head to that room. There'll be a habits of care room. So if you'd like to brainstorm a list of informed practices for care and teaching, this will be a place where you can get together with others that are interested in doing the same thing and sharing that there. And then there'll be 3 other rooms that will be based upon some activities from the Equity Unbound site. And I linked to that here in the contemporary care conversations. And Equity Unbound is this tremendous resource from 1HE that's definitely one to bookmark. And it gives you a whole bunch of community building activities that you can literally kind of click and go. And so if you'd like to try out one of those activities, there's one, these are all sort of getting started activities. So they're great for groups like us who don't have a lot of familiarity with each other. One is called The Story of Your Name. The other is Surrealist Free Drawing Instructions, and the other is Sharing an Object from Home. So this will give you an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit more and to use one of the Equity Unbound resources. Or if you all get together and decide you want to try out one of the other activities, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So with that, I'm looking, we've got about 16 people in our room. So if you get to a room and there's no one there, you might want to wait a minute and then you can pop into another room. Sabrina and I will be waiting in the middle, what I like to call the middle of our digital space, if anyone has any questions. And Sabrina will open those rooms for you to pick and we'll let you go. There'll be a timer for 25 minutes. The 25 minutes is very intentional. I don't know if anyone has heard of the Pomodoro technique, but we're kind of basing it on that small sprint time of work there. So the timer will be going and we'll let you choose your rooms and we'll see you back in about 25 minutes to recap. And I'll be keeping an eye on the doc and popping in and out of the rooms. All right, thank you everyone. We'll leave the room open just for a couple more minutes as we're wrapping up. I'm resubmitting the link to the Google Doc. Thank you to the groups that were taking notes. As I popped into a couple, I heard some conversations about feedback and grading. I'll add this new book that just came out about ungrading, which is another great one to talk about conversations around feedback and care in that. And then talking about sort of mediating all these different spaces. This is a great Google Doc that was curated about active learning while physically distancing and kind of taking all those environments we may be working in, synchromodal, whatever words we use for that, and some tips and tricks for that. So thank you all for giving your energy and time this morning. Really appreciate you sharing. And if you would like, I'm going to be creating a blog post about this session. And if you've added and curated any of the links in this Google Doc, please put your name in there as well, so we can give you credit for collectively curating. It just didn't come out of nowhere in thin air, so I'd love to give you credit for sharing that as well. And again, we'll re-put the links to the slideshow so you have all those resources. And thank you so much for spending the past 45 minutes with me and your peers, and for caring about this session and your faculty and your students and colleagues. Thanks, everyone.
I'm sorry, Leigh, can you, 2 things. What do you want us to do on the doc? You want us, like, if it was our idea, you want us to put our name next to it? Is that it?
Or just at the bottom of the session. If you were in one of the breakout, just put your name in that. Yep, that would be great.
And then what was it ungrading? Was that the name of the book? Because that's not Googling.
Let me put the link for you in the chat here. It just came out, I think in October or September.
Okay. Hasn't hit Amazon yet then.
I
Thank
don't
you
buy
so
from
much.
them. I get it directly from the source. Actually, are you, if you're at ASU, the ASU library does have it via the library for free. So
Yeah, but then I would have to go and get it, right? I don't.
no, they got us a digital copy. So it's
Oh,
completely online if you happen to be at ASU.
I am.
Okay.
But I like to hold my books sometimes.
All right. Well,
I'll buy it.
yeah, if you want to peek through it with, take a
Yep.
preview, the whole book is via our library.
Thank you, Leigh, very much.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
I think I got everyone from our group, so I only have first names for a couple folks, so I think I spelled her name right when she said it.
That's what I heard too. Thanks,
Okay.
Sarah. And I saw some of your messages in chat. Please feel free to reach out. It sounds like we have some common research interests, so I would love to chat more.
I'm one of those weird people that I'm an instructional designer by trade. I've got my master's in it. And I went into a PhD program on teacher education, and a lot of my research so far, like the paper I'm working on now, is talking about how people talked about the pandemic and how their language actually shows. So one of the things I found was one of the people I interviewed, instead of proficient, he used the word comfortable, and comfortable for him meant proficient. So it's really, really interesting.
That is very interesting. Yeah, well, I would love to talk more.
I added you on Twitter already for sure.
Okay, I'll get over there and add you right back. If it allows me, it only allows me to add like one person a day. It's so
Weird.
silly. I know, but let me follow you. So good, we're connected now.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everyone. And thank you for your help, Sabrina.
Of course, thank you. Thank you guys for coming.
All right, I think we'll end the session. All right, thanks.
Sounds
Bye.
good. Bye.